Let's draw a kind koala bear. Oh, actually, they're just called a koala. Make sure you follow along with me and I'll explain why later. So today we are going to be drawing a koala, not koala bear, and I'm going to explain to you why it's not a bear. We're going to need a couple items before we get started. Make sure you get a piece of paper. Remember, I just use the one that comes out of the printer. You're going to need a pencil. You're going to need a outlining tool. I like to use a black colored pencil. You can use a marker also. You're going to need an eraser. I use the one on the end of my pencil, or if you have a handy dandy one around the house, that will be great. Now, lastly, you're going to want to have some type of tools for coloring in your branch later. So I am using colored pencils, but you might want to use crayons. Now, you're probably thinking, but what about the koala bear? Aren't we going to color it in? Well, we're going to be only using our pencils for coloring it. So one more thing I want you to look for is a piece of paper towel, a napkin, or a tissue. And I'll explain why we need that later. So go ahead, pause the video, and gather up the items that you need. Remember, you're going to need a pencil, outlining tool, something for coloring the branch, and a napkin, and of course a piece of paper. So meet me back here once you have your items and we will get started. All right, you've got your tools. Let's begin. I'm so excited to teach you about our koala. Now, you'll notice I'm probably going to say koala bear about 5-10 times while I'm teaching you about the koala today, because I have always called koala bears koala bears. Well, evidently, they are not a bear. People call them koala bears because they look like a bear. They're super fuzzy. I mean, look at how cute he is. But they are actually not a bear. They are a marsupial, which is also like a kangaroo. Kangaroo is also a marsupial. What does that mean? It just means that the mama, after she has her babies, she keeps her babies in a pouch inside her tummy while they grow. And then when the babies get a little bit larger, they come out of the pouch. I'll explain a little bit more about that later, but let's begin our drawing. We're going to start by finding the middle of our paper, and you'll notice that our paper today is going to be tall like a door. That's called vertical. So put your paper down and make sure you find the center with your finger. We're going to take our pencil and make a dot in the middle, and that helps us to get our proportions right. Now, the first thing we're going to be doing is looking at the shape of the body. So when I'm looking at the shape of my koala bear, you'll notice his body is an oval. And so we're going to be making an oval a little bit kind of tilted to the right corner. So our oval is going to go like this, not straight up and down. We're going to kind of bring it over on an angle. So I'm going to start right around this dot in the middle, and I'm going to make a nice medium-sized oval. And then once I have my oval, remember, we don't worry about it being perfect because it's going to change later. We just use it there for our shape. Next, we're going to make the shape of the head. So looking at the shape of the head, that to me looks like a circle. So we're going to intersect right through our oval. Remember, intersecting just means we're going through. So I'm going to make a nice circle intersecting my oval. Now, is my circle perfectly round? No. Does it matter? No, because we're going to erase most of it anyway. Now, once we have it to this point, we're going to take our eraser. We're going to erase out the top of the oval because we don't need it anymore. And now we're going to then make our shape for our arm. So our arm right here is just a curved line, side by side. It's a pretty fat arm. So I'm going to start right here underneath the shape here. I'm going to draw a curved line. And then I'm going to draw underneath this dot, I'm going to draw another curved line. Then I'm going to erase the dot. We don't need it anymore. Now, once we have the shape of the arm, we want to make sure that arm is nice and wide. Then we're going to leave a little space over here for his hand. Now, we'll create his hand a little bit later. We just want to get all these proportions down first. Next, we're going to work on figuring out the size of his body. Now, right now we have an oval, but we got to check our size before we begin. So the first thing we need to do is measure out the size of the head versus the body. So if I look at the head on this photograph, the head is about 4 fingers wide, but watch, the body is 2 heads long. So one head is on this picture is about 4 fingers wide, So the body is 1, 2 fingers, 2 sets of fingers long. So whatever size your head is that you just drew on your paper, you want to double that size to make the body. Now this is important, and that way your body will be the right proportion for the head. So in measuring here, I'm going to measure 1, 2. So I have to make my body longer. So if I look right here, 1, 2, my body actually needs to go all the way down to here. So before we move on to drawing all the cuteness, we got to make sure our proportions are right. So now I'm going to erase the old one. Okay, so now we've got a head, a body, an arm. Now for our hand, all we're going to do right now is we're going to draw 1 curving thumb, and we're going to draw kind of a mitten shape like this for the fingers. We'll add the fingers later. We're just going to do this for now, just to kind of block that shape in. And then once you have it, looks like he has little winter mittens on, we're going to erase this part of his body. We don't need that anymore. Now it's super important that you make sure that arm is nice and wide and fat. So if you need to fatten it up a little bit, go ahead and fatten it up. And then we're going to go right down here, and this is where his big thigh muscle is. So we're going to just make a big curve right here. And then the last part we're going to add are his feet underneath. So right from the underside here, I'm just going to draw a curved line and a curved line above it. And I'm going to do the same thing, just make a little mitten shape for now. We're going to fix it later. This is just blocking in their shape. There's no reason to spend all this time working on his fingers and toes until the very end. All right, so now we got our shape. Now once we have that shape in there, it's time to go in and get the details. Let's go up to his ears. Now in this photograph, you'll notice he has really fuzzy ears. Not all koala bears have those big, long tufts of fur. So the shape of their ear is pretty big. It's kind of like almost making Mickey Mouse ears, and the top of his head is pretty flat. So the first thing I want to do is I kind of want to flatten the top of his head. See how I did that? I just kind of flattened it. And I'm going to make a very wide circle, similar to making Mickey Mouse ears, but they're a little farther over on the side of his head. Now, first thing you're going to notice is I made one ear bigger than the other. You want to check your work before we move on. So make sure that whatever size you made one ear, you want to match it on the other side. Now I check my work by using my fingers. I never use a ruler. So if my fingers are 3 fingers wide on one side, I got to make sure there's 3 fingers wide on the other side. I never use a ruler. I always use my fingers. My fingers are always with me. So on my whiteboard up here, my whiteboard's a little bigger, so my fingers are 4 fingers wide on both sides. Once you have that done, you're going to erase this part here and here. We don't need that anymore. And now what we're going to add instead is a very soft, furry fuzz right here in the middle. Just kind of make a little squiggly line like that. So that's going to be the tuft of his fur inside of his ears. Now once you have drawn a little fuzz inside of his ears with your pencil, we're going to do his nose. All right, check out his nose. Now if you could pick up a spoon at home and flip a spoon over, the back of a spoon is almost the exact shape of his nose. We're going to go right down here toward the bottom of his face, and we're going to make a tall oval standing straight up and down. Now once you have that little oval shape for his nose, we're going to add 2 very small nostrils on each side at the bottom. And you're going to take your pencil and very softly, I want you to go in and brush a light coat of your pencil over the nose. Now later, we'll go in and do it a little darker when we get to our black colored pencil. But for right now, just use your pencil. All right, let's check out where his eyes are. You'll notice his eyes are very low on his face. He has a huge forehead. Look at how big his forehead is. So his forehead is almost the same size as the bottom of his chin to his eyes. So his eyes are about 2.5 fingers wide here. And above here, see, they're about 2.5 fingers wide to the top of his head. So I want to make sure that when I get ready to do his eyes are very low on his face. Once you have his nose there, to make his eye, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right down here next to his nose, but I'm going to bring it below the top of his nose, and I'm just going to draw a little lower eyelid here and a little lower eyelid here. I'm giving it a slight curve, and I'm making it very close to his nose. Now, I'm cutifying the picture, meaning it's not going to look very realistic. I'm going to give the koala bear a little bit cuter eye. Ooh, I said koala bear. Koala, a little cuter eye. So I'm just going to make an arch curve, like a rainbow, on both sides. You want to make sure that those rainbow shapes are about the same size. So if they aren't, fix it. I'm going to correct mine. Mine needs to be a little higher, I think. There you go. And then I'm going to tilt the eyes heading off that direction. So I'm going to draw a little half circle right here and a little half circle right here. And then for the highlight, which is where the light would be shining, I'm going to draw a little half circle up at the top, kind of like the letter U. And then I'm going to very softly with my pencil go in and color just a hint of color in that pupil. I don't want to do it really dark right now. I'm just doing it very lightly with the pencil. We'll make it darker later when we get to the black colored pencil. All right, once you have the eyes done, you're just going to take your pencil and draw a few very, very soft lines right above the eye, just for like the accent of where the top of his eyelid would be. Now we're going to do the bottom part where his mouth is. So we're going to draw a short line coming down, very similar to if you were going to draw a cat. And I'm going to draw a small curve on one side and a small curve on the other. And then I'm going to change the bottom of his face and the sides of his cheeks a little bit. If you notice, he's got nice, full, rounded cheeks. So I'm going to take this line and soften it, erase it. And I'm going to make his cheek a little bit wider. So you can see the difference between this side and this side. So I'm going to make it a little wider, kind of like he has a mouthful of eucalyptus leaves. By the way, that is the only thing that koalas eat, is eucalyptus leaves. They don't eat bugs. They don't eat meat. They just eat eucalyptus leaves. Matter of fact, they very rarely drink any water, and the name koala originated from the Aborigines, and they called the koalas koalas because it means little water, and they don't drink hardly any water. Now, once I have added a little fur on the cheeks and underneath the chin, now my koala is starting to look more like a koala and not so much like a mouse or a teddy bear. There's a difference, you can tell. I'm going to also change the shape of the ear right here, and I'm going to make the ears a little bit more fuzzy. I want my koala to have a little bit more fuzzy ears. You can keep yours smooth, or you can change the shape and make them a little bit more fuzzy. Now, once I have my face done, I'm going to go down here. I'm going to fuzzy up the bottom of his arm. And the top of his arm. And then I'm going to change his back and make him more furry on his back also. So you notice when I'm doing his fur, I'm just kind of taking my pencil and scratching it around the sides like this. Fur always grows down. It never grows straight out. So you always want to be following the curve of the body. Next, I'm going to show you how to make the hands for the koala. Here's a cool thing. A koala has the same amount of digits as we do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On the front paw, of the koala, they don't have one thumb and four fingers. They actually have two thumbs and three fingers. So it would be like us having two thumbs and three fingers. So if you look at a close-up of their hands, they actually have two thumbs. And that helps them to reach around and grab the branches. Since they spend their entire life up in the branches of a eucalyptus tree, they have to hang on for dear life their entire life, even when they're sleeping. So they have very strong hands to hold the branch because they have two thumbs, two digits here and three. That's on the front. Their back feet, on the other hand, they have one thumb on one side and four on the other, very similar to the way our hands are. All right, now once we have our thumb drawn up here, I told you we were going to make a mitten, but now we're going to erase the end of that mitten very lightly so we still can see the shape of it very softly, but we're going to divide that into three fingers. So I'm going to go up here and make one finger, and then I'm going to make a little separation, two fingers, and then I'm going to make my third separation, three fingers. Now once I have my hand done, I'm going to do the same thing on the feet. If you look right here, three of his toes are showing. So I have to make three toes down here. I just very lightly erase the edge. And I'm going to start with my first toe, bring it in. I'm going to leave a little separation between the two and make my second toe. And a little separation, and then my third toe. Now once I have that done, you won't believe this, we're almost completely done drawing our koala. Right up here where the neck is, if you have a little space between the face and the arm, you want to make the neck a little bit more fuzzy because he's got a fuzzy neck. If his tummy is showing right here, you want to make his tummy fuzzy also. The fur on his tummy and the underside of his chest and arm right here is white. So we're going to add one more layer of fur right here to remind us that part of it's going to be white and part is going to be gray. So I'm just going to go right here and draw a second line of fur. When I get ready to color, that's going to help me to remember that that section is going to be white. Now our last part of our drawing, very simple. We're just going to draw a branch connecting right here. So I'm going to start right underneath his bottom right here, and I'm going to draw a line coming out on an angle. I'm going to continue it through his body. I'm not drawing it, I'm just pretending. It's going to come out his hand, maybe behind his ear. So I'm going to continue up, up, up. Yours might be different than mine. This is just where mine's going. And then I'm going to draw the other half of the branch over here. I want to bring it in front of his foot, but I'm going to let the branch get a little bit thinner or skinnier as it goes up the side. And then our final thing is to add a little bit of bark. So to make the bark, you're just going to make a very gentle wavy line that runs the entire length of the branch. And then you're going to bring another line down. I would do that about 3 or 4 times. That's going to kind of give the illusion of the bark of the eucalyptus tree. So once you're finished with that and all of your koala is done being drawn, then you're going to pause the video right now. You're going to get your black colored pencil and it's time to do your outlining. So this is a very important step. I know sometimes you guys want to get right onto the coloring, but it's really important that we outline it much darker with our black colored pencil. Or if you're using a Sharpie marker, grab that. So pause the video, go over all of your lines with your black colored pencil, and then meet me back here when you're finished erasing your pencil lines and darkening everything with your black. All right, if you push play, you're ready to move on to the next step. So we've outlined everything in our black colored pencil, and now we're going to start doing a little bit more detail work. So I'm going to show you what we're going to be doing next. So the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to darken the eyes and the nose using our black colored pencil. So I'm going to get my black colored pencil and I'm going to go right over here and I'm going to start to darken first the nose. So I'm going to take my black colored pencil and make the nose a little bit darker. Now you'll notice I'm not pushing hard. I'm just putting a light coat of black over the nose. And I'm going to make it a little bit darker around the edge. This is going to give the illusion of the nose being round. I also notice it's a little darker at the bottom, so I'm going to make it a tiny bit darker toward the bottom. And then, of course, I have to make the nostrils a little bit darker. Now, don't push really hard with your pencil. You just want to darken them slightly. Next, we're going to darken the pupil of the eye. So I'm very carefully going to go in and just rub a little bit of my black colored pencil on the pupil to make it a little bit darker. And then I'm going to take my black colored pencil and add a tiny bit of a shadow right behind the lash. If you added any lashes, now I didn't draw them on mine. If you want to draw a male, you won't draw the lashes since we're kind of making the koala cute. If you want it to be a mama, a female, then you can add a slight lash right over here. You don't want to make the lashes very long. If you are doing lash like I did on mine, you're going to take your black colored pencil and very softly put a little shadow right behind there. All right, the next place we're going to add a shadow is right underneath this arm. So taking my black colored pencil, I'm just going to very softly color a light shadow right underneath the arm here. I'm going to extend it onto the branch. So I'm actually putting a shadow on the branch underneath his hand. See how there's a shadow right here underneath his hand? Each one of those fingers is making a shadow on the branch. I'm going to add a little bit of shadow underneath the fingers. And I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom leg. So I'm going to add a little bit of shadow underneath the toes. And then we're going to start to add a little shadow on the actual fingers themselves. So we're going to shade the underside, the bottom half of each finger. So I'm just going to take my pencil and very softly scribble just a light shadow with my black colored pencil. Now this is going to show up even when we color our koala gray later, because our black colored pencil has a wax base to it, so it's going to stand out darker than our gray graphite from our pencil when we start to shade it later. All right, the other place I'm going to add a little shadow is in the ear. I'm just going to brush a little bit of black colored pencil in here, in between those ziggity zags that we did for his ears. I'm going to add a little bit of shadow on his eyebrow, just kind of scribbling softly. And that's about all we need. Now we're going to take our next tool, and that is going to be our pencil. So this is my little trick for today. I want you to find a napkin, a tissue, a paper towel, anything that you have laying around the house. You're going to need something like this, and we're going to be using this to rest our hand on so that your hand doesn't get dirty from the pencil. So if you have to pause the video to go get that, go get a paper towel or a napkin. Next, you're going to need a pencil. Now make sure that your pencil is a little sharper. We want to have a nice pointed lead. Let me show you that. See how sharp my pencil is? Because we're going to be using the side of our pencil for shading. So you can either grab a couple pencils because you'll wear one out, or you can just have a sharper pencil to work with. So I'm going to take my paper towel, napkin, tissue, whatever you've got, and you're going to lay that down on your paper. And this is going to protect the rest of your work from getting your hand dirty. So my hand is going to rest on my paper towel. I'm going to be taking my pencil and adding a gray shading shadow to the koala to give it this really soft fur effect. So we're not going to hold our pencil this way like we're writing. We're actually going to hold our pencil a little different. We're going to put our finger, all of our fingers from the top. So you're going to grab it from the top like this, and you're going to put your finger right here on the wooden part of the pencil. So you right-handers, you'll be holding it this way. Lefties like me, we're holding it this way. And we're going to be using just the sides. I'm going to hold my pencil like this. I'm going to put my paper towel underneath my picture where I'm working so that I don't get my work dirty, and then I'm going to take my pencil right here up at the top, and I'm going to put just a light coating. Now, my trick for doing this to make an even coating, first off, you want to make sure that your paper is on top of a couple other pieces of paper. You don't want to have it on a bumpy surface. Secondly, you want to make sure that you move your finger in little baby circles like this. They'll be a little easier for you to blend later. So you see I'm moving my pencil kind of in little baby circles. And I'm going to continue to do this all the way down to his nose. And then I'm going to do some up on the top of his ears. So make a nice soft fur. All right, you're going to continue doing this, making sure your paper, napkin, or towel or tissue is underneath your hand, and you're going to do the side of his face all the way up to his ears, moving your pencil very softly. We're not pushing hard. We can always add more. So I want you to finish doing just this area of the face, so pause the video and catch up to me. You're going to do his cheeks. And the only place I want you not to put any is right on the underside of his mouth, right on the underside of his nose. So go ahead, pause the video, and meet me back when you have this part done. And then I'm going to show you our next trick. So, all right, if you have paused the video, you have caught up to me. You've put a little bit of gray on his face. We're going to do the body later, but I just want to show you our next trick. So I've put a little bit of gray in his cheeks, underneath his eyes, and between his forehead, here in the little fur part of his ears. So now I'm going to show you my next part. So now we're going to take our first finger. So I am left-handed. You can see I've already been doing it. I call this finger my smudgy mudgy. So you're going to only use one finger for this. You're going to take your paper towel or your napkin and lay it down. And you're going to take your finger and you're going to start right here above his nose. And you're just going to move your finger in a circle, pressing onto that pencil. Now the pencil is called graphite, and it's this beautiful soft texture that you are creating on this paper by just moving your finger in a circle. You can see that you're pressing all that pencil into the paper, and it's going to make your koala look so soft and real. Now, your finger, look at my finger, is going to get really dirty. So you want to make sure that you have this napkin here. And as you finish each part of the koala, you're going to do this on the body a little bit later, but as your finger is dirty, I want you to take your dirty part of your finger and rub it on the edge of the branch. So we're going to just, every time our finger is dirty, we're going to rub it here on the branch, and that is building up a nice layer of shadow on our branch. So what I want you to do is go ahead and pause the video. You're going to color all of your koala the same way I just taught you. So the head, the arms, the leg, and the feet. You're going to keep the tummy and the underside of his chin and his chest white, and also a little bit in his ears white. Once you're done with that, then you're going to push play, and I will show you the next step of our drawing. So go ahead, using this. Don't forget to use that napkin as you're working so that you don't have a bunch of gray on the side of your hand. All right. So now you've paused the video, you have done the entire body. Our last part of our picture is to do our eucalyptus branch. Eucalyptus leaves are the only thing the koala eats, and so the branch is just basically, when I looked at that picture, I saw some browns and some oranges. So what I did is I took my colored pencils and I pulled a bunch of them out of my little colored pencil container here. And the one that I thought matched the best were brown and orange. I also used a light brown. Where did my light brown go? So I used 2 shades of brown and some orange. And all I did was rub the side of my colored pencil all along the branch. And that's how I did the coloring on the branch. And then I ran the tip of my colored pencil a little harder over the little grooves in the trunk of the koala, of the eucalyptus tree. So I hope you had fun learning about the koala today. A couple more things that I thought were interesting about the koala is the male koala makes a bellowing sound, and it sounds like an old man snoring. When he is talking to the females or the other males in the Australian outback where they live, he makes this terrible sound that sounds like he's hurt, and he goes like that. That's what he sounds like. And so I just thought that was the funniest sound, but evidently that the males with the loudest bellow are the strongest males. The other thing I thought that was really interesting about a koala is that the only food that they eat is eucalyptus leaves, and they don't drink a lot of water. I thought another fact that was interesting is that the koala's fingers have fingerprints, almost like humans' fingerprints. And I thought that was an interesting fact. So I hope you had fun learning about koalas today. I learned a lot. I always called them koala bears, and now I'm going to try to remember just to call them koalas. They're marsupials, and they're only found in Australia. So the next time I see you, we will be working on the letter, let's see, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. What's our next animal? L. So our next animal lesson will be letter L. I'll see you next time. Bye.